Uh,
Construction in
whoops,
2026.
ignore that. I need to switch accounts. There we go. Let me go over to the Racine County Eye. This is not it. Sorry, 1 second. View my channel. This is not going at all like I wanted it to. Okay,
It
here
almost never does, and that's
I
okay.
got it. Okay. I have the link. I'm going to put it on our Facebook page so that people can join us here. And it's generating and it's posting. And okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. I was a little backwards. Anyway, thanks for joining us. This is Coffee with Candidates. I am your host, Heather Asianbi from Racine County Eye. I am a co-founder of the site and its managing editor. I am joined tonight by Nathan. I'm sorry, can you pronounce your last name for me?
Pabon.
Pabon, who is running for a seat on the Racine Common Council representing the 15th District. Nathan, do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself, please?
Yes, absolutely. I am Nathan Pabon, obviously. I have lived in Racine now for 12 years, and I graduated from William Horlick High School. I went on to get my business management degree from Gateway Technical College right here in the city of Racine. And we own a home here. We've owned a home since 2021. My wife and I, we have a dog. His name is Tyrus. And
You have to tell us what kind of dog.
well, we believe he's an English lab, but we just haven't gotten the testing done. But what we do
Okay.
know is that most of the time he is in fact a good boy. So
That's all that matters.
yeah,
He's the
right,
best boy.
exactly.
No, he's the
So
best boy. That's for
I'm
sure.
the seventh of seven children. I am the second to own a home in my family. I'm the second to also graduate from college. So currently, right now, my wife and I, we are going through IVF to start a family of our own, and we are also fostering two of my nieces. So it's been very hectic. But I live in Racine. I love Racine. I'm very committed to my community. And we decided that we want to raise a family here and live here, and it's just a great place to be. We have a lot to offer. Sometimes you just have to look, but there are a lot of great things around here, and I'm happy to be here today.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. So I'm just going to let you know and everybody who's watching. Nathan is in front of me. My camera is here, but this is one screen, and on this screen I have the question. So I'm going to have to keep turning to look, but I just want to let you know I'm not turning away from you. I'm turning toward questions. So, all
Okay.
right, we're going to dive in. So we have 10 questions in 5 categories. The first category is local economy and development. So, um, when you think about Racine, the downtown area of Racine and the lakefront in particular, what are
Mhm.
your plans to attract and retain businesses in those areas?
Well, I think what we first have to do is we have to work on supporting the businesses that are already there. So if we keep having businesses leave for one reason or the other, that's not really attractive for other business owners to say, hey, come down here and play with us in our empty sandbox. So I think that's first and foremost. We need to provide support for them. Now, what that support looks like, that should be more of a collaborative effort where we are actively seeking and taking into account the feedback that those business owners are giving us for what they need, as well as what their ideas are. Because at the end of the day, in a position like this, especially as an alderman, you are part of one but many. So we need to work in a collaborative effort to help support those people there. Now, when we start to help support them with whatever means that may be, to where they are starting to see the returns and seeing that their businesses are being successful, it's a lot easier for us to try to then market that to other businesses. For instance, you would have a hotel downtown, beautiful. If you've never been in there, go in there. It's great.
It's amazing. It's
It's
amazing.
amazing. But the problem is, if you don't have people coming to see the downtown area, there's no one to really fill those hotels. So we are all reliant on each other. So your question is a little difficult because as an alder, what we can do is we can go and we can listen, we can advocate for those businesses, and we need to work in collaboration with them is really where it starts. Once we start there, once we solve that core problem, we can move forward with working together on how to attract more people in.
Okay, excellent. Next question is, what do you feel is the city's role in addressing affordable housing and rising rent costs in Racine? And does the city have a role? And if so, what is it? I guess it's begs
So
the Question.
I think that the city does have a role
Mhm.
in the its ability to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to help try to set our citizens up for success.
Okay.
That means that making sure they have access, basically, the basic necessities need to be met first. We
Mhm.
need to make sure mental health is taken care of. We need to make sure food insecurity is taken care of. We need to make sure they have the proper access to tools and resources and education. Okay. And then that makes them better off to make those informed decisions when it comes to whether it's time to buy a house, whether they can, whether they can't. Now, as far as if the city can do those things, I think that right now we are in a position where we're really stretched. We are financially, we're really stretched. But
Mhm.
what we can do is we can work collaboratively with the community to see what their recommendations are, and we can champion those recommendations. Now, that may be working with the county, that may be working with the state to get more grants or more assistance on programs that possibly have worked elsewhere. But what we really need to start with is focusing on meeting the basic necessities, and then we can go from there. Which all just goes back to listening. So we face a housing crisis. A lot of the times when we have development coming in, the main issue is again, we have to have people to fill those developments, and we also have to have people that can afford those developments. So if you are developing in the city, but what you develop is then out of price range for most citizens, that doesn't help the problem, that exacerbates the problem. Now we have another empty building and another development that can't fulfill its promise because it doesn't have the people it needs.
Yeah, so RCDC, Racine County Economic Development, we did a housing study, and it shows that Racine County only has, maybe it's the city of Racine. I think it's the city of Racine, has a 12% vacancy rate, which is a, so low that there's no inventory, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's home ownership or rental units, like there's just no inventory available.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm not, there's no question there. I'm just making a statement. Like that's a thing, right? Like that's that. So your point is well taken, right? So like how do we bring in the units, whether it's single family housing, multi-family housing, rental units, how do we bring that in but keep it affordable so that people who live, work, and play in Racine can live there?
Well, and to your point, I will never tell you something that I don't know. I will
Hmm.
never, I'm always going to be candid with you and honest because I would rather tell you at this moment, I don't know, but I'm willing to listen and gather the facts. And
Hmm.
a lot of these things that our community faces, especially when it comes to housing, especially when it comes to downtown development, economic development, whether it's, trying to get a grocery store down, whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
it all centers around us as elected officials listening to our constituents and
Hmm.
saying, these are what the people in my district are saying. What are your constituents saying? How can we come together to collaborate to
Hmm.
fix these issues? And that's, I think, right now what is missing.
Okay, great. So we're going to move on to public safety and community well-being. So public safety is a top concern for residents. And when we're thinking about public safety, I want to really consider that public safety is an umbrella term for a lot of
Right.
things, right? So mental
Absolutely.
health, education, healthcare, addressing poverty, and of course, law enforcement, right? So, what strategies do you support to reduce crime while also improving relationships between law enforcement and the community?
I think that we have a lot of involvement in the community with the cop houses. I think I'm also a board member of the Racine Neighborhood Watch. So when you're talking about reducing crime and creating collaborative efforts, bless
Excuse
you,
me, I'm
it's
sorry, it's
okay.
always two. Sorry,
It's
excuse me.
okay. Everyone gets three, and then that you're on your own. No. So when you're talking about creating a collaborative relationship between the police and between the community, we have a lot. Again, Racine Neighborhood Watch does a lot with the cop houses, with the meetings, with
Mhm.
crime prevention. That's what it's focused on is crime prevention, really,
Yeah.
and being able to deter that, not being a vigilante, not going out there and taking the law into your own hands, but how
Right.
can we form those relationships with police officers to make sure our communities stay safe.
Mhm.
But like you said, it's not just, community safety. A lot of the times, again, it all boils down into poverty, mental health. How are we
Yeah.
meeting the needs of our constituents? Now, can you know the needs of your constituents if you are not communicating with your constituents? No, you cannot. So, how are we meeting the needs? We need to first find out those needs. So we know that we have a need for mental health help. We know that we have a need to tackle poverty and rising cost of living, the rising cost of housing. We can only do that through a collaborative effort. That's the only way it can be done. No one has the one right solution. That's not what our local government is designed for. Our local government is designed to take inputs from all the 15 districts,
Mhm.
along with what the mayor's input is, and put that into action. So we have programs out there. We have the Racine Neighborhood Watch. We have a lot of great stuff that the police do, and even in public safety, we're talking about firefighters as well on what they do and the workshops that they hold to help with community safety, fire prevention methods, and what to do when those kind of things happen.
Okay.
Those are top of the mind, and those are the things we should be promoting as a city very heavily. And those are the things that we should really be reaching out to the constituents in our district, hearing their voice, what they need, what they want, and then we reflect that as their representatives on the council.
Excellent. Okay. So there have also been a lot of discussions at various levels about youth engagement programs. So what role do you see the city playing in providing opportunities for young people to succeed and stay out of trouble? And I will also add that it seems like there is this is part of the conversation I've had with everyone else so far. Um, there is a group of it feels like the age groups between like 13 and 16 are kind of like the invisible teenagers because they're not old enough to work, but they're too old to participate in like summer day camp programs, right?
Right.
So like what can they do? What can they do either in after school hours or especially over the summer?
Right. So we kind of run into that issue right now because my one of my older nieces, she just turned 12. And a
Okay.
lot of them, this is the last year she's going to be eligible for any kind of daycare opportunities. So my wife and I were looking, I mean, so what it really boils down to is um understanding what we offer as a community, whether that be going to the schools and saying, hey, what programs do you offer?
Mhm,
Or if we're going to these daycares, what programs do you offer for older kids, the YMCA, what have you? What programs do you offer, and how, as a city, as the city government, can we help to promote and enhance those programs? As an alderman, maybe that's you're going to tour the schools yourself. You're going to out to these community organizations, Youth Empowered in the Struggle, whatever, what have you, to
mhm,
say, what great programs do you have that I can spotlight for you? What great programs do you have that we can help you enhance in whatever way possible? Sometimes the council's role isn't always necessary about voting yay or nay.
mhm.
Sometimes the council's role is about helping to promote the things that we do have going on and helping the public to understand what is available
Okay.
to them. So, and youth engagement is extremely important in everywhere you go. So, helping to make sure that they are understanding what after school programs their school does offer, helping to understand what programs other organizations around may have, flyers that we can do, collaborative efforts we can do to push on social media, in person, during listening sessions, what have you, to say, hey, here's where we can take all that maybe that angst that they have, maybe the feelings that they have, and here's where we can channel it into something productive. So they're not out, tagging
Mhm,
buildings. They're not
mhm.
out being disturbances to the community, because those are the people that are then going to grow up and turn into the adults of the community. So
Right.
if we are investing in them now, we're going to see that return on investment when they are able to grow into well-balanced adults.
Okay. So we're going to switch directions a little bit. We're going to go into infrastructure and transportation. So if you are elected, what will your priorities be when it comes to road repairs and infrastructure improvements?
Well, uh, I know what I hear sometimes, what I've been hearing, especially when I'm out talking with constituents, knocking on doors, is I'm hearing that there is a sense of frustration because there are too many projects going on at once
Uh,
in the city. So That's the feeling. Now, what the actual intricacies of it are, that is something that obviously in that role I can better study. But the plans would be obviously it's all returns back to feedback. So I had when I'm out there, I had somebody tell me that the road is starting to sink in, so therefore they cannot drain properly. Those are the things that I'm going to be contacting the departments about. What can we do? What are the possibilities? When it comes to potholes and all that stuff, there are tons of areas around that's a complaint that I've had. So what we do is we take those and then we figure out what can be done. Can we get those potholes filled in a timely manner? Can we get a stop sign put up there? This building is crumbling. What can we do? It's really
Mhm.
about listening to our constituents and then filtering it through the appropriate departments, and seeing how we can get back to them and say, okay, here, this is what's going to be done for you.
Okay.
Because we need we need roads, obviously, to drive on that are
Mhm.
in good repair, that
Yep.
aren't causing unnecessary damage to people that may already be in an economic hardship. And we need obviously buildings that are safe and accessible for everyone. So we work collaboratively with the systems the city already has in place,
Mhm.
and our citizens and our
Mhm.
constituents' input, to make sure that the city is accessible and workable for everyone.
Excellent. Okay. Excuse me. With the push for more sustainable transportation options, not just
Hmm.
in the city, but kind of regionally, right? Like,
Hmm.
but since we're talking about the city, do you support expanding public transportation and or bike-friendly infrastructure, and why or why not?
So that is actually, I have heard that several times while I was out knocking on doors and talking with people, is that they would like to see an expansion in the public transportation that we provide. They would also like to see an expansion in walkable side, trails or things that they can do
Mhm.
within walking distance. So I would be in support of that as long as we have the financial capability to do it. So there are a lot of there are a lot of programs or a lot of things that may be proposed that are excellent
Yeah.
and their goal is excellent, but you have to look at it too from a sustainability point. Can we continue to fund this in a way where it doesn't become an antiquated system that then needs an upgrade that's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
that we may or may not have at that time? So, absolutely,
Okay.
would I be in support of expanding transportation to include more bike-friendly lanes, and also maybe expanded routes for the city bus system? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But it has to make sense from a fiscal standpoint, because if we cannot continue to fund it in a sustainable way, it's going to
Mhm.
end up doing more harm than it will do good.
Okay. Uh, so now we're going to move on to our education and workforce development. So, how can the city better collaborate with our education partners with the Racine Unified School District and then also local colleges? And I want you to think beyond Racine for this. So, it would be Gateway, Parkside, Carthage, UWM, and even Whitewater, since that is not so far away. How do you think the city can better collaborate with all those parties to help better prepare students for the workforce?
So what it really starts with is obviously the collaboration part, is listening to what their needs are, what the school's needs are, and what they are seeing in their populations. So, what are the demographics? Who's coming to their school? Who's enrolling in their schools? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from Racine? Like you said, I went to Gateway.
Mhm.
Gateway offers a lot of great things. Are we tapping into them for their input to say, hey, how can we better support you? Are we holding forums there? Are we trying to listen to the students? Or can we start at a more local level
Mhm.
before they go off to college? When they're still in our Racine Unified, are we able to talk to them and say, hey, when you're looking at colleges, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? How are you making that decision? And then we can go to the colleges and say, what are the needs of your students?
Mhm.
How can we better support you? Whether that be going into middle school classrooms and giving them a fundamental one-on-one on how government works, or supporting more after-school events or what have you. There's a plethora of things that can be done.
Mhm.
But when we're talking about it, again, it's one of those things that boils down to collaboration, like you said, listening to their input.
Yeah.
What are their needs? That's where you start. What are their needs? And then you figure what programs does the city have, or how can the city champion what that school is trying to do? Gateway has a lot of fantastic programs. Even Racine and Kenosha, when I was part of the student government there, about getting bus passes to be able to have students be able to provide themselves transportation to college.
Hmm.
But that was something that the school did.
Yes.
So how can we work with them? And the bus pass, by the way, was not just for use for school. As long as they were making their classes, they could use that to go out and get their groceries. So how can we look at more programs like that where we work with the city bus system to say, how can we do this? Those are the kind of things we need to be looking into to
Okay.
invest in those people, because if we're not meeting their needs,
Hmm.
they're going to find some place that does.
Okay. So do you support then, I'm going to assume the answer is yes, based on what you just said, support expanding apprenticeship and vocational training programs in Racine? And if so, how could that, h- how do you see that happening?
So, if you've just toured, I don't know if anyone has toured Juristead when they did the
Oh, that
upgrade.
was just, wasn't that, when was that? Was that last week?
The
The
listening
tour.
session. Well,
Yeah.
I was a couple weeks ago. Honestly,
Oh,
everything's
okay.
blurring together with all the schedules and
I
whatnot.
know, like time is very fluid.
But
Like
they
something
have
I think was yesterday was 14 weeks ago. It's.
But they have a really great hands-on, a lot of things hands-on in there. So there's
Okay.
hands-on cooking, hands-on welding. They even have the ability to have a virtual weld so they can see what they're supposed to do, and then they actually have a machine there to
Hmm.
so they can do it and they can practice it. We don't always have to push being a doctor and being a lawyer. We need people that are welders. My brother's a welder. We need people that are carpenters, plumbers, contractors. You don't have to necessarily go to college to make a good amount of money and be successful. That is not the case, especially even now with where student loans are and all the debt that comes with that. We should absolutely support those kind of apprenticeships. And what
Hmm.
we need to look at is, what does the apprenticeship programs, do they differ from school to school? And if so, how? What works for one may not work for the other. So can
True.
we can we come out with a more comprehensive program that allows us to not only teach them those skills, but really enhance their ability to be successful in that field and create and help foster that passion that they have. And that's another thing too that you're talking about with these apprenticeships, these programs with
Hmm.
youth engagement.
Hmm.
If they are passionate about something, whether it's welding, plumbing, contracting, cooking, whatever it may be, if we're giving them those tools and resources like those, like you were just saying with the
Yeah.
apprenticeships and whatnot, guess what they're not doing? They're not out
Right.
there. They're not being a nuisance. They're not causing trouble. And they're learning that, hey, you know what? Maybe, that earth science is not for me, but I really like this. I really like welding. I
Yeah.
really like working with my hands, and I can be really successful. So absolutely, I would support it. Again, if we're doing it in a way that is most beneficial to kids, which is working in collaboration with RUSD,
Hmm.
because the council doesn't have direct jurisdiction, obviously, but
Right.
we do have influence. And as representatives of our district, we can take what the parents are telling us and
Hmm.
work with our school board members to ensure those programs are not only funded, but we're working on looking at them and how we can improve them. Because when we offer a better quality, the benefit of that is our future generation.
Right. Okay. So uh this is a switching gears a little bit. We are going into government transparency and community engagement.
Okay.
So, based on your experience so far, do you believe that city government is as transparent as it could be and that it communicates effectively with residents? Now, the way I like to think of this, and this is how I've been describing it, is it's one thing to be transparent, it's another thing to communicate. Those are, they can go hand in hand, they mesh together, but they are essentially two separate things. So, um, what do you think?
So, from what I'm hearing, and this is a level of frustration no matter what aisle of the political divide,
Hmm.
uh, personally, these constituents are on,
Hmm.
is they do not feel that there is the level of transparency and accountability and communication that they would like in their city government.
Okay.
What they don't want is they don't want government business not being handled because a quorum cannot be reached. They don't want people not showing up for their jobs. That's what they don't want. They don't want people that are on the council, but and saying that they represent a district, but they're not communicating with them. They're not returning their calls. They're not returning their emails. They are not trying to listen to the input. You cannot claim to represent someone when you have
Hmm.
no communication with them.
Yes.
So, is there an issue with that? I think so. And I think the only way that you can do that, on the council, I wouldn't be a yes person.
Hmm.
And on the council, I'm not going to be rubber stamping things. I'm also not going to be an obstructionist. What I'm on the council to do is to voice my constituents' concerns. Because at the end of the day, it's their vote that put me in that position to in the first place.
Hmm.
Now, how do you do that? How do you ensure there's transparency? When something is coming up for a council vote, if people elect you to a position, the average person may not even look at the agenda.
Right.
The average person is not going to take a delve into the finite details of a budget.
That's true.
That
But I think too, I think one of the things, and I think it was my conversation with Grace Allen that this was raised in, is that even with full transparency
hmm
and 100% communication, right, where you're checking boxes and you're
right,
putting information in as many places as possible, there is still a personal responsibility component, right? Like if I want to know something, I need to be able to go find it, right?
right,
And it should be easy to find. So
right,
if the city's doing that and you're my representative and
right.
you're doing that for, for your constituents, like I still have the personal responsibility to in make sure I myself am informed, right? So it's kind of
You
two sides to
do,
the coin, right?
you do, but it's also then it would be the city's responsibility to make sure that when you go to search out those things,
Yep.
they're readily and easily available for you, where you don't have to, click 14 different links on a document and then a subsection 4 to find something,
Yeah,
right?
that drives me insane to do that.
Well, and let's be honest here as well, that when you're talking about ordinances and zoning and budgetary matters, that stuff is dry. It is
Well,
dry.
I mean, for most people, for me, I'm kind of a news nerd, right? So like I sit there and I'm like
Well,
totally in the raptured, but
you
yes,
do
you're
work
right.
at the county eye, so I would be a little concerned if you weren't. So that a lot of that stuff is dry. But the what I could do is if a constituent comes at me and says, "Hey, I want to know about this. Where can I find more information to do my own research?"
Hmm.
I shouldn't have to say, well, you have to go to this and then click this and then download this. And about halfway down, that's where you're going to start to find this. So we need to make it more
Right.
accessible, more easily accessible so people
Hmm.
can do their own research and come to their own conclusions. And then if there's something that they need clarification on, absolutely reach out. Because like you said, there is that personal responsibility where we are responsible at the end of the day to
Hmm.
be informed citizens.
Okay.
That is our responsibility. But
Mhm.
if they come to you as an older person, your responsibility again is to help them. If they don't know, help them find that answer. Tell them how you did it. So then they
Yeah.
know next time. And then make sure that it's also ready for them the next time in a more easily accessible manner.
Okay. That's great. So last question, it's kind of a big one, but what steps will you take to ensure diverse voices are heard in your decision-making process, particularly from underrepresented communities?
Well, I will start with that. I myself am Puerto Rican. My father is from Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
Came from Puerto Rico here and did not know a lick of English. I will start with that. A lot of my nieces and nephews are African American.
Okay.
So when you're talking about how will I make sure, it to me it's very simple, right? Is you need to go if you know those people that are traditionally underserved and underrepresented,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just go to the other side of town in an area where you know they're not going to be and expect to find them, right? You have to
Right.
go and seek them out. So whether that be, you know, an event is coming up for an organization that's popular in the community, or you're getting out there and you're helping with whatever, what have you. Maybe it's Halo,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's you know, a community organization that's doing a give back. Get yourself involved in that because that is where you can start to form and have those conversations with people. And also listening sessions, right? The people that are going to go to listening sessions are the people that like to go to listening sessions.
Yeah.
So those are great, but also going door to door. So that kind of stuff doesn't stop just because campaign season is over. In order to ensure that you're representing as many people as you possibly can, and when you're making that decision, you're fairly informed on what your constituents want, you have to go to not just the places that you're comfortable, but the places that you're uncomfortable. Go into that restaurant that you've never been into, talk to the people there, go to that organization meeting that you've never been to a day in your life, talk
Mm-hmm.
with them. What are their needs? What are the churches needing? What are those after school programs needing? Reach out, network, talk to your constituents.
Okay.
That's how you can get a better full picture, but you can't do that by sitting in the, you know, proposed ivory tower
Right.
and saying, yeah, I know these people. So it's really about being open,
Mm-hmm.
returning people's communication, whether that be they call me, regardless of if we're going to agree or disagree on what they're leaving me a message about. Um, Returning that back follow up is so essential
Yeah.
to everything, especially, you know, I'm not trying to be a politician, Heather. I want to be a public servant. That is my goal. That is
Okay.
what I've always been. I've come from we had our electricity turned off, we had our water turned off, where we had to go and gather water in jugs to cook and clean and bathe. So I know what struggle is like, and I
Mm-hmm.
also know what extraordinary effort it took. And that's not a brushing of my ego. That is just the reality of how hard it actually is to get where I am. So now in a position of power, or maybe representation really, um, I am better able to have an understanding and connect with those people. And
Mm-hmm.
I know where they are. I'm not afraid to go to any place in this city. Not any place in this city nor any place in my district, if it means I can get a better understanding. So reaching out, having those listening sessions are important, going to the local businesses, going into your community to actively seek that feedback. That's how you can make sure those diverse and historically underrepresented constituents are then represented.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for that. So in our last minute or two, I would like to invite you to make your appeal to your district voters.
Well, first, I want to thank you and the County Eye for hosting this Coffee with a Candidate. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are frustrated with the state of things right now in our great city. And I want to take this time to remind you that there are still a lot of great things about our city. There are a
Mhm.
lot of great things we can do for our city, but only if we work together. What that means is we need people on the council that are going to show up, whether they're going to like the vote or not. We need people on our council that are going to show up to be your voice. So, working collaboratively with you, with our firefighters, with the police, whatever it takes to make our community a success. We don't need people rubber stamping spending. We don't need people that are yes people or even obstructionists. What we really need is someone that you can call, that you can email, that it can show up at your door, that'll show up at your restaurant, at your or of your church, your faith meeting, and be actively ready to take what your issues are into consideration and be candid and honest with you about what the possibilities are
Mhm.
and what can be done. So I know that a lot of people, you know, have different perspectives of where the city's at right now. I am running because I want my nieces to have a city to grow up in. We chose to build a family here. We chose to stay here because we love this city. So when you are going to the polls, or if you've already voted, if you're going to the polls, you're going to early in-person voting. Please consider that when you're casting your ballot, down the ballot, but also for the 15th district alderman. because that's what I want to be. I don't want to be Racine's next politician. I want to be Racine's next public servant, and I want to be able to help you get your voice back on the council so we can get things done.
Excellent. All right, we are going to leave it there. And I just want to say, Nathan, thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for spending this time with Racine County uh, readers and your potential constituents. Thanks for being here, and everyone. Thank you for joining us for these coffee with candidates conversations. We are technically supposed to be in the Racine County office with actual coffee mugs,
Yeah, I
but
know.
I caught a little bit of a bug this week, and I didn't want to spread cooties to anybody,
I
so we
really
are doing these
appreciate
on
that.
Zoom. I know nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
No, not at all.
No, but thank you for being here, and also so today is Wednesday, March 19th. Early voting
Right.
started yesterday.
Yes.
And election day is on April 1st, Tuesday, April 1st. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Mhm.
Please get out there and vote. If you have not registered, you have plenty of time to do that. You can still do it you have to register in person.
Right. And if you
Yes.
need any help or any guidance with that, you can go to myvote.wi.gov.
Thank you
And
for that.
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you can even register on election day. So don't let that
Absolutely.
stop you from casting your ballot. So everyone, please exercise your right to vote. And Nathan, thank you again for joining us. And we will see you on the next coffee